Let me admit something that I've never said to anyone before. I have always wanted my own personal exoskeleton, ever since I was a child and I saw this insane epicness in the Aliens movie. But now, as a wise and selfless adult, I don't want an exoskeleton for myself. I want people who need them to have them, because the game is next level right now. Factory workers are becoming more productive and avoiding injury because of exoskeletons. There are paralyzed people regaining the ability to walk because of these amazing devices. It's the stuff of science fiction, but it's quickly becoming a very tangible and very hopeful reality. We live in new and uncertain times, where AI and robotics technologies are evolving faster than the overused Pokemon, and people are rightfully concerned that their current jobs might go away in a few years. But some companies are betting that humans still have a lot to offer in industrial environments. These companies are investing in a bold, short-term plan. Instead of trying to give robots human intelligence, give humans the physical advantages of robots. One notable example is the Apogee exoskeleton by a small German company creatively named German Bionic Systems. At first glance, the Apogee doesn't look like much. It doesn't have any components for the arms or lower legs, and it only covers the lower back and hips. It also only weighs just under 17 pounds, but it creates 66 pounds of lower back support. The unique value proposition of the Apogee is that it's not actually trying to make workers stronger or faster. Instead, it aims to spread out the daily stresses that cause workers to become fatigued. The overall idea here is to look at the long term and reduce or eliminate factors that lead workers into injury, disability, or early retirement. In a world where many niche industries are experiencing a skilled labor shortage, this approach could help companies retain older workers who might otherwise age out of strenuous jobs. German Bionic also has a heavy-duty version called the Cray X that is already in use in Europe in places like airports. But Cray X may have to compete with this thing. This beast, this absolute unit, is the Guardian XO full-body exoskeleton, and it's the flagship product of a small company called Sarcos. It is battery-powered, can run up to 8 hours, supports its own weight, and allows the user to lift about 200 pounds. Impressive, but it won't be winning any beauty contest. And big corporations are paying attention to these small exoskeleton companies. Many car companies like BMW and Ford have experimented with these devices on their factory floors. But Toyota is perhaps the company most interested in using these products for their assembly line workers. Even though Toyota experimented with a leg brace exoskeleton a few years ago, they don't make their own upper body exoskeletons. Instead, they've tried out models from other companies, including the airframe system by a company called Levitate and another system from Autobach. Toyota has had over 500 shoulder exoskeleton devices deployed across factories in North America, and after years of practice, they've reported some fascinating results. For workers in the pilot program, they've essentially reduced on-the-job shoulder injuries to zero, and they may have conducted the world's most extensive proof-of-concept program for daily exoskeleton use in mechanical work. So, Toyota has had success with exoskeletons built by other companies, but there are a few systems that they're not as eager to try out, particularly the devices built by one of their biggest competitors in the car business, Hyundai. If you're older, that name probably evokes memories of not-so-great cars like this 1998 Hyundai Accent that was, well, let's just say it wasn't in the running for Car of the Year. But the company has remade itself since then, and now it's competitive in the growing electric vehicle space. Hyundai even spun off a luxury car company called Genesis that is competing with Lexus and Acura. But one of Hyundai's lesser-known endeavors has been their decision to make industrial exoskeletons. They started in 2018 with the CHEX, or chairless exoskeleton, which lets workers sit down without a chair and reduce knee stress. Then there was the VEX, or VEST exoskeleton. The VEX is billed as a wearable robot that is targeted at production line workers whose jobs primarily involve frequently reaching overhead, like auto workers who spend all day bolting things to the undersides of vehicles, fitting brake tubes, attaching exhausts, things like that. Hyundai has not yet commercialized either the VEX or the CHEX, But they have been running pilot programs in their own factories, and according to them, it's been a wild success. And there are no signs that Hyundai is going to give up on the wearable robot concept. In June 2021, Hyundai acquired an 80% majority interest in famed robot company Boston Dynamics. Yes, that Boston Dynamics. So Hyundai is perhaps betting on both sides of the human versus robot competition. And that's probably a smart move because despite all this amazing progress with worker exoskeletons, the robots are still likely to win this fight in the long term. A 2019 study by a research firm called Oxford Economics predicts that robots could possibly replace humans in 20 million manufacturing jobs by the year 2030. But exoskeletons have many use cases beyond factory work. And there's another area where they're excelling at something robots can't really do, and that's assisting people who have mobility problems. One of the most common uses for exoskeletons is in rehabilitation for people suffering from strokes, multiple sclerosis, or spinal cord injuries. These devices can help patients stand and walk again, allowing them to regain their independence and improve their overall quality of life. We've seen technology like this used in popular fiction, most recently from the costume team on the Avengers Infinity War movies, who created the exoskeleton Rhodey, aka War Machine, used after he suffered a spine injury. But the reality of this tech actually goes even beyond the fiction. There are many companies developing mobility assistance tech, most of them you've never heard of. But again, automaker Hyundai pops up as the most well-known competitor in this space. In addition to the Chex and Vex systems I mentioned earlier, Hyundai has also developed another system called HMAX to assist patients suffering from spinal cord injuries. The device aims to help patients sit, stand, walk, and even navigate stairs. But Hyundai has to compete with this thing. This is the Rewalk Personal Exoskeleton by Rewalk Robotics, and it was the first exoskeleton to receive FDA clearance for rehabilitation use in the United States. Rewalk Robotics focuses on designing innovative exoskeletons specifically for people affected by neurological disorders, including strokes and spinal cord injuries. The Rewalk battery-powered exoskeleton features a light frame with powered motors at the knee and hip joints. On top of that, it comes with a remote-control wristband that can be used to select from a list of pre-programmed movements the user would like to perform. However, as good as Rewalk's system is, other exoskeleton companies have caught up to it and also gotten FDA approval. And Rewalk doesn't work for people with more severe mobility problems. Fortunately, a company called Cyberdyne is here to fill that gap. Now, the name Cyberdyne might sound familiar to you.
In 3 years, Cyberdyne will become the largest supplier of military computer systems.
But this Cyberdyne is a technology and robotics company known for its groundbreaking hybrid assistive limb technology, or HAL. The HAL system aims to restore and augment limb movements only via signals generated by muscle contractions. When a human brain prepares to move a limb, it generates movement signals that lead to the contraction of the muscles in that limb. The HAL technology then converts the faint muscle contractions into movements of the mechanical limbs. This allows mobility for people with nervous system injuries. This makes HAL primarily a device meant to help patients move on their own without assistance. A perfect example is this brain injury patient from Brooks Rehabilitation in Florida. After just 2 weeks with Cyberdyne's HAL, her ability to walk greatly improved, and pretty soon she might be doing a cha-cha slide. So the HAL is a proven piece of really cool technology. But this is an even more advanced machine. It's devised by a French research center called Clinatec, and their system is a bit different than Cyberdyne's. Where Cyberdyne uses nerve signals in muscles to tell the exoskeleton what to do, Clinatec aims to use direct brain signals via implants in what is called a brain-computer interface. With Clinatec's approach, the power to move is all in the mind. This process relies on special wireless brain implants called WeMagine, and their job is to read and transfer brain activity. If this sounds expensive, that's because it is. In fact, all these devices are. Currently, the beastly Guardian XO I mentioned earlier is available for rent for just over $100,000 per year. But for a device meant to work in commercial situations, companies might be able to justify that cost with increased productivity or decreased risk to worker safety, as we've seen with Toyota. The situation is a bit different with the medical devices, though. As an example, the Rewalk exoskeleton is priced at an eye-watering $71,600 for a personal device and $85,000 for an institutional device. And that doesn't even include annual service fees. For Clinatec's exoskeleton, when you factor in surgery costs for the brain implants, the total price is estimated to be over $250,000. Cyberdyne's HAL system is a deal by comparison. For patients who meet the eligibility criteria, the device is available for a one-time cost of $20,000, which is still high, but they gotta pay for Skynet somehow. Still, even with the tech in its infancy and current costs making the devices inaccessible to most people, the benefits are clear and the progress is undeniable. Out-of-pocket costs will come down as these devices get approved for healthcare coverage systems like Medicare in the US and the national health systems of Europe. That's potentially a political issue, but the long-term benefits of these devices just make financial sense by reducing problems in other areas. Once patients are walking again, it builds their cardiorespiratory fitness, in addition to quality of life and mental health improvements that come with being able to move around on their own. One of the examples that inspired me to make this video comes from a man named Corey Borner. In 2009, while playing in a high school football team practice, Corey suffered an injury that left him paralyzed from the waist down. He spent years in recovery, but he was only able to make significant progress when an exoskeleton was introduced into his rehabilitation program. In 2021, with the help of his exoskeleton, Corey stood up and walked to receive his diploma at his college graduation, 12 years after his accident. The world starts encouraging us to stand from our earliest days, and from then on we're told to stand tall, stand proud. We're supposed to stand and fight, stand our ground, and also stand up for others. For so many people, the ability to stand, something so simple, so basic, so human, has been taken away from them. But exoskeletons can give it back, and that's something to be hopeful about.